We're driving a 2021 Kia Sorento. Coming up, we're going to dissect its family friendliness. But first, information explosion. The Kia Sorento is a weird vehicle. It's a little bit too small for a proper mid-size three-row SUV, but it's a little bit too big for a compact SUV. It sort of bridges categories. Whatever it is, let's start with interior.
It seems more luxurious than I expected for a Kia. The materials, there's a lot of visible stitching in here.
And it should, because this is the Prestige. This is the most expensive version of the Sorento. If you go to a lower trim, you'll be somewhat less dazzled. But in terms of the general layout, though, I mean, I think it looks like it's a pretty classy SUV.
Plus, the exterior of the gauge cluster gives you a Ferengi flair. Star Trek fans know what I'm talking about.
Well, that does offer an awesome segue into the abundance of black plastic.
Yes. I feel like I need to become resigned to it because it's just in so many vehicles. It does show off every finger.
Ah, squirrel, don't stop. Keep moving.
Why? Phew.
Crisis averted. Let's complain more about the black plastic.
At least it doesn't kill squirrels.
Yeah, if it did, that wouldn't stop car makers from putting it in there. Yeah, so there's a lot of reflective material, and it's going to pick up fingerprints. So I'm not a fan of that. But on the other side, how do you feel about the fake wood trim?
It looks surprisingly real.
It looks better than most real wood trim.
It does.
I think it feels a lot like wood too.
Yeah,
Does it?
I think it does feel a lot like wood. It's got a little bit of texture to it. That's a really great observation. However you feel about the style of the Sorento's interior, I think its interior pragmatism is undeniable, at least in the first and second rows. If you get in the second row, it reclines, it slides. It's a really adjustable space. You can see out well. There's the little armrest that flip down, very comfortable place to sit. And what I really like too is that they've got a standard second row release, just a push button, so our kiddo can just push the button, it slides forward, and then even the little ones can easily crawl to the third row. If you wanted to put an adult in the third row, like let's say a cantankerous Micah Muzio, it's not a great combination. But if you're using it for kid duty, it's totally fine.
Your feet ride very high back there, I noted.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that like butt to foot distance is really unfavorable. If you are hauling kids around, you've got 4 seats with latch points. So you could disperse your children throughout here if you needed to. One of the complaints that we have sometimes is that second row vents are not always standard. They are standard across the Sorento lineup. 3 more features worth mentioning on the family friendliness tip. Driver talk allows you to amplify your voice through the audio system to rear seat passengers. That's an optional feature. There's also quiet mode, which will turn off the speakers in the back there and limit the volume of the front ones. And then also there are ultrasonic sensors for rear seat passengers. So if you leave a kid in the back seat, it will alert you after you get out, like the horn will honk and stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
What do we think? Family friendly?
Family friendly.
Yeah.
I have some thoughts about cargo. When I first opened that rear hatch, I actually laughed aloud about how tiny it was. But the seats fold down really easily. It seems like you have to choose between having usable cargo space or having 6 passengers in the vehicle.
That is absolutely true. Yeah, it's like less than 7 cubic feet behind the third row. There's a little bit of space underneath the cargo floor. But yeah, if you're doing like a Costco run or something, you're definitely going to have to leave some passengers at home. While doing that Costco run though, one of the things I love that Kia offers is a smart rear hatch feature where instead of like waving a foot or kind of doing some sort of incantation dance, you just stand near the back with the key in your pocket and it will automatically open up.
Nice.
Rear window test.
Yay, all the way down.
Armrest test. So we got stitching on the edge here, and the inboard and outboard armrest positions are wide set. It's pretty difficult for me to have my elbows on them while holding the steering wheel. If I hold with just the fingertips, I can rest them, but I'm gonna go mid elbow for both of those. Hey, have you subscribed to our channel? If you haven't, please do. At 100,000 subs, we're going to review a windowless white van. Style! Any style thoughts?
It's fine.
Oh, geez. I'll add a little detail to that. I like the LED headlights. I like the individual vertical elements for the taillights.
Oh, I did like those.
I like the overall look. The one area I don't like, though, is the reverse shark fin on the trim around the daylight opening. On this version, it's dark, so it kind of blends in a little bit, but on other versions, it's like much brighter trim piece, and it looks really kind of unnecessary. I should mention that this is the X-Line Prestige trim, which is the absolute pinnacle of the Sorento lineup. And the X-Line gets a little bit extra ground clearance. It sits up a little bit higher, 8.2 inches versus 6.9 inches of ground clearance. And it's got the 20-inch wheels. So that gives it a little extra, visual flavor, but it's apparently not doing much for you. I think it looks nice. If you guys have visual thoughts, tell us in the comments. If you're curious what I'm driving or flying between YouTube videos, give me a follow over on Instagram. And if you're curious what our family's up to, give Evie a follow. In motion! Driving around in the Kia Sorento, I find it to be very refined. It's quiet and smooth. It's a very comfortable driving SUV. When we get to the powertrain, things get a little bit more interesting. So this has the 2.5-liter turbocharged engine. It is ample in power, but that power is not linear. So let's say you're coming up this hill and you just go to a specific pedal setting. There's a downshift, which takes some time, and then there's the turbo coming up to speed, which takes some time. So it's like, it's a two-stage acceleration. Depending on how you feel about that turbocharged nature, that can read to you as maybe sporty, or it might also read to you as a delay. I will also note that on these windy mountain roads, the steering exhibits a little bit of that rubbery quality that we noted in the Bronco Sport, where it just kind of keeps wanting to pull you to center instead of feeling settled when cornering. It's certainly not bad, but in terms of steering feel, this wouldn't be my absolute favorite. Not my absolute least favorite either, kind of somewhere in the middle. Oh, God, that's why we love having you in the video, sweetie. The Kia Sorento also offers a range of drive modes, and they do indeed engender a unique feel with each of them, and it's reinforced with the 12.3-inch digital gauge cluster that's included on the Prestige trim. The thing I want is a custom mode. I would like to have an individual setting so that I could do a combination of all the different modes, because here's what I want. I want the powertrain setting from Sport mode, I want the steering feel from Comfort mode, and I want the gauge visualization from Eco mode because it looks very Tron.
It does.
If you've always fantasized about controlling a light bike, tell us in the comments. All right, I think it's about time we had Evie Drive. Sweetie's at the wheel, needles full throttle acceleration. Ah!
Right into that truck.
Into that F-150. Ah! Now needles full throttle acceleration. Ah!
Right into a truck.
Woohoo! That needless full throttle acceleration did feel plenty zippy.
Yeah, that is a good source of potential emotion. You come around a corner here, you feel confident.
Yes. Yeah, I do feel pretty seated in the corner.
Mm-hmm. The actual handling abilities are pretty good. If you want to, you could, let's say, follow a Corvette Z06 up Highway 18 at fairly robust speed. If you wanted to do that, just a hypothetical.
I won't be doing that.
Okay, but you could. If you wanted to, you could. Any visibility issues?
The belt line seemed a little bit high.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but you're right. It is kind of a high belt line, and it's interesting because visually they really divide it. If you look here, the A-pillar is a different color, and it's a stark belt line. I think that might almost be an intentional move to make you feel enveloped, which can also create a sense of safety.
I saw a witch's castle.
I'm sorry, that high belt line is not going to save you from a witch, though. So what do you think overall? Pretty good driving experience?
I enjoy driving this, yeah.
Yeah. Well, she's satisfied. Whoa. Time to get me back in the driver's seat. Good job driving, sweetie pie. I should also, maybe because this is the X-Line, which is the off-roadiest version, take this thing for a quick spin off-road.
Ooh.
Oh look, a conveniently placed off-road trail. This is a fairly mellow trail, although yesterday I took this thing out and did what I would describe as, for at least this category, some fairly gnarly off-roading. The tires aren't like super off-roady. They're good enough, but if it gets like real loose, then you're gonna experience some slip. One of the interesting things is it's got this button here. Baby, push my X-lock.
What does that do?
It's supposed to evenly distribute torque between the front and rear tires. That gives you a little bit of a traction advantage. However, when you've got open differentials in the front and the back, even if you're splitting torque evenly, it's still hard to get up some of those more tricky sections. Yesterday I had a moment where I could not get up a section, put it in the X-Lock mode, didn't help.
Oh no!
So I had to back up and make a little bit of a run at it. But, you know, I guess it's better to have X-Lock than not have X-Lock. I think in an off-road environment, the Sorento is exactly as capable as you would expect it to be. And now back to paved roads. Said with grandeur. Moving on, emotion factor. I think there is an interesting enough aesthetic, and I think there is enough character to the driving experience that you could definitely mine some emotion here, certainly more than maybe some other SUVs out there. If you're feeling emotionally moved to buy a Kia Sorento of your very own, check the Kelley Blue Book listing link in the description below. Remarks! Remark number one, infotainment. So an 8-inch screen comes standard. This is the optional 10.25-inch screen that comes on higher trims. The weird thing is that wireless Apple CarPlay is standard on the 8-inch, but not included on the 10.25-inch.
That is hard to comprehend.
It's weird. Yeah, did you have any thoughts using this?
I liked using it. One thing I was curious about is why you need a map and a nav button. Wouldn't a home button have made more sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
How do we get home? Hello, home. Oh no, I've activated sounds of nature. We've got open air cafe. Oh good, a home button up top here.
But it's not on every screen and you have to swipe to get to Apple CarPlay. They have this, which I think is like a favorites, which you could make the home button.
Oh, okay. Well, I think that's a good solution.
Yeah.
Good job, sweetie pie. While we're seated here and listening to the cafe, I'll also point out that 6 USB ports come standard, and the optional 360-degree camera system works really well. A bunch of different views. Over here, you can zoom in and zoom out.
There's a button that's really easy to access,
Very
which
convenient.
I always like.
Yeah. And then one more thing, the blind view monitor in the gauge cluster is super cool. Did you know you can also get the Sorento with 7-passenger seating, but only with the 2 lower trims? So if you want a fancier trim, apparently you need to have less children.
Aww.
Aw. We're not really going fast enough to use it right now, but in my experience driving the Sorento around, I've noticed that lane keeping assist system works just great. The dynamic cruise control, which is optional if you're like in stop and go freeway traffic, it gives a little bit too much gap, even on the narrow setting, so people kind of slot in front of you. But on the freeway at higher speeds, works great. There is a base engine on the 2 lower trims. It's obviously less powerful, but interestingly, it's also less efficient on the freeway.
What?
Isn't that strange? And then also, one of the things I really like about the Sorento is that they offer a hybrid version. And the hybrid gets 37 mpg combined, which is very efficient for a 7-passenger or 6-passenger SUV. I would be remiss if I did not point out that Kia vehicles offer a 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty, which is very reassuring for people who haven't come around to the idea that Kias are well-built vehicles. Now we have to talk about something crazy. Are you ready to get crazy?
Of course.
Let's get crazy. The base trim, for me, is not a great buy, even though it is very inexpensive. I would want to step up at least to the S trim because you get things like smart key access and proximity sensors. It would be kind of weird to buy a modern vehicle that didn't have backup sensors. But if you do that, that brings the price almost to $32,000. That's within $300 of a Kia Telluride LX. So for $300 more, you could get into a much, much larger SUV with adult-worthy third row, comparable features, and it'd have a naturally aspirated V6 for that linear power delivery that makes people like me ever so happy.
Yeah, so your motivation for choosing this would be improved gas mileage, perhaps?
Either it fits better in your garage, it's
Yeah.
easier to park in the city, it's somewhat more efficient. You have to want the smaller one, but if you compare the features and the price, the problem is Kia made that Telluride so competitive. What do you think? Would you go with a Telluride LX over a Sorento S? Tell us in the comments. Wrapping things up, let's talk about competitors. So one big competitor might be the Hyundai Santa Fe, which is basically the same vehicle, but only available with 5 seats. If you want to go like a proper midsize, you could go Honda Pilot or Toyota Highlander. If you're thinking more of a compact and you don't need those extra third row seats, you could go like CRV. But let me throw out a couple of alternatives. You could also get a Volkswagen Tiguan with 7 seats for about $25,000. Another one, and this is a weird one, but the Chevrolet Traverse, you can get an 8-passenger Traverse for under $30,000.
Wow.
So if all you need is seats, there are cheap ways to get seats. I'm weirdly passionate about seats that come cheaply. I'm a passionate man. The iguana will verify that. Did we miss any remarks? If we did, tell us in the comment section. Synopsis! In considering the essence of the Kia Sorento, to me, I think it is a really great SUV unless you obsessively consider the alternatives. So to my mind, it is every online purchase I've ever made right after I click the button
Yes.
of midsize SUVs.
That's perfect.
If you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do. At 100,000 subs, I'm going to review a windowless white van. If you'd like to see what we're up to between YouTube videos, give us a follow over on Instagram. Family, I think we did a great job, everybody. Can I have a 5?
Yeah.
5. And you, come get your high 5.